I'm making this video today because I want to show how I draw and color my Pokemon illustrations. For those of you who have asked, which I think maybe one person has asked, but this way if anybody else wants to know, they get to find out too. So I have here some line art that I've just done. I'm not going to cover the line art extensively because it's kind of takes a long time. And the great thing about doing, okay, the way that I do my line art, this is really bad. The way that I do my line art is by using the pen tool, and the great thing about this is that you can, like, once you learn how to do it right, you can get completely smooth lines and lines that go exactly how you want them to, and you don't get, the jagged edges that you would get just from using the brush tool, nor do you get what am I doing? Okay, well, delete path. But also, sorry, the other point is that you can actually do it with a mouse. So you don't even have to use a tablet, which I use a tablet because I own one, but if I didn't, I could do this with just a mouse. And after you do the line art, it makes the coloring so easy, and the coloring and shading can almost be done completely without a mouse too. They really can if you don't have a tablet. So here's my line art. So I'm going to start with that. And you'll notice probably immediately that it doesn't quite have the character that the original pencil drawing had, but that's going to come as we start really working on it. As when we add all the colors and everything, it'll start to look a lot better. So first, what we want to do is select the main body, or whatever thing you want to color first. But we'll just select the main body that's all going to be one color. And what I like to do is just go to the line art layer, use the magic wand, and then just select it all really quickly. And this is a great way to do it without a tablet. And then just do Shift Edge, and then I like to smooth the selection by 1 point because it actually covers more. Okay, because if it's not under the line, you'll get your lines won't look very good. So it's hard to explain exactly the problem with it, but yeah, so then you go on a new layer, so you can see this layer has nothing on it yet, and then you select the main color that you want to write. Okay, thank you. So you select the main color that you want to use, and I'm going to use a kind of grayish, darkish, turquoise-ish color. It's really, or bluish actually. Black and bluish, I don't know. And you can see that there are some parts of it that weren't selected by the magic wand, and those we can go over later. The reason why I do it like this is just because it's easier than cleaning it up after the fact, so yeah. So I'm going to go and finish doing all of that, and then I will back with you guys when I start doing the shading. Okay, so here we are with the nearly completed color scheme, and what I'm going to do now is actually start adding in shading. So I've created a new layer, and as you can see with all of the colors in the document, although I haven't labeled them, I'm feeling a bit rushed making this whole video. I haven't really labeled the layers, but what I usually do is label the layers with what color they are, and I'll put each different color on the body of the thing that I'm illustrating on a separate layer. And that way what I can do is, if I want to quickly change the color of something, I can just use a color overlay, since all the shading is done via a separate shading layer. So here I've just made a shading layer, and I'm going to actually name that because the shading one is kind of important to not fuck with. So, oops. So I just take black, 100% opaque black, and just kind of draw it sloppily over wherever I think should kind of be shaded. Now, someone who's a little bit more professional than me might start by actually discerning a light source, but that never really works out for me anyway, and it's not that important when drawing Fakemon. So, I mean, maybe if you're doing it professionally or something, you might want to be more cautious, but for me, I don't know, I have trouble with light sources, and it's not worth going to the effort of making sure that everything's absolutely perfect. That being said, you shouldn't just shade things at random because then it visually doesn't make sense to the eye, but just try and discern things as best you can on your own as to where the shading should go. And for me, I typically just put it at the places that seem like they're farther away or places that seem like they might be obscured by another body part. So, shade on the underside here. And the important thing to note too about this one shading layer is that this is only the basic shading layer. Afterwards, we're going to do another shading layer where we're basically just going to copy the whole thing, and then we're going to erase. So just to make something that's sorry, oh my god, just to more accurately shade the areas that are darker than the main shaded areas. So what I just did there is just selected from layer 2, which is my line art, and then I just went to the shading layer and then just pressed delete. You might want to make a mask so that if you have to make any adjustments, you don't, but whatever. I'm just too lazy for that right now. So then what I'll do, because I'm not going to create the second layer of shading without cleaning up the first one, because I'm basically just going to duplicate and then erase. So I'm going to, I'm not going to shit. Man, stupid MacBook. The refresh rate of the screen is lower because I'm recording, so it's a little bit harder to make smooth lines. Anyway, so I'm going to keep doing this, and I'll be right back with you in just, well, I guess it's a second for you. So now that I have made my shading look a little bit less shitty, I'm going to simply clone the layer, and then I'll just name it like deep shading or something, and then from there all I have to do is just start erasing first of all the things that I want to get rid of completely. Like this fin here doesn't need deep shading, and again we can select from layer 2 to make sure which is our line art. I feel like anyway, we can select from layer 2, which is the line art, and then again, just work from there if you're able to, but if not, then don't try because it will just be a mess. So yeah, and we can erase the stuff that is not necessary. Like it's absolutely not necessary to have deep shading on something that's in the foreground. So this thing, oh shit, fuck. I'm sorry that I swear a lot. If you are a child, then maybe you shouldn't be watching this. How did you get on the internet? Anyway, so we get rid of that. And then we take certain things that, oh, there's more. God. Maybe don't select stuff and just, damn it. Okay, so once you've erased the things that are in the foreground and don't need deep shading, is there anything up here? Yes, this little left side antenna thing does not need it. Ugh. Fuck, side small brush. Okay, this screen recording is actually making my refresh rate so low that Photoshop isn't even recognizing what I'm doing. Okay, so now that we have a basic thing, what we're going to do now that we've already erased the parts that we absolutely don't need, so we're going to turn the opacity of the eraser down. And yes, it's controlled by pressure, but just to be sure that you're not doing 100%, yeah, or just to make it easier, just start erasing stuff from the deep shading layer and erase it in kind of a gradual fashion and try and keep the lines clean, but they don't have to be as clean as the line from your main shading layer. They're supposed to be a little bit messy. If you're going for a more Sugimori style, then you might want to do like kind of circles like this, and like make them pile on top of each other like that. But that's not really what I do. So, I mean, my style is inspired by Sugimori when I do Fakemon, but I'm not trying to copy his stuff. I'm not trying to make my stuff really look like Sugimori art. And I'm not bashing anybody who does that, because that's totally fine. He's a great artist. So anyway, we keep doing this, and up here we're going to have to be a little bit more careful. In fact, we might even want to use the line art selection technique and then erase like that, because we don't want to get that second antenna. The second antenna should, I mean the background antenna, second antenna is not really specific enough. The background antenna should absolutely be 100% shaded because it's in the background. So, and it's not really big enough to warrant some kind of gradual erasing. Although maybe you could do a little bit. Now let's do a little bit at the end, just for a little flourish. A lot of the time, the shading in Fakemon drawings that I see is very nonsensical, so why not go along with that? And again, I'm not bashing the people who do that, because I do it too, and I think it's cool. So, this is pretty much almost it. The edges are not exactly clean, but I'll show you really quick ways to do that. And what I want to show you, which is also important and is a very silly and weird and kind of stupid step, but it actually can add a lot to your picture, is you just take one of these, oh no, this brush here, this 90 pixel shitty brush that's in the Photoshop brush set. I'm not sure exactly which one, but I think it's like the default thing. And then just create a new layer, like always, and just scribble at 100% opacity, or whatever opacity, because you're going to change the opacity anyway. And then set the layer mode to something like soft light, which is my favorite one to use for this. You can see it adds quite a stark texture there, but then you lower the opacity to about 17% maybe. And after that, we're going to add highlight layers, and then we're going to use the line art selection tool to select everything that's outside of the line art and just press delete on every single layer. So I'm going to do highlights now. I'm going to show you how I do that. Go back to a normal brush, and then create another new layer, and we'll call this one. And for a lot of people, it's actually important to do the highlights first, because then you're kind of defining the light source. Whereas if you do the shadows first, you don't really have light to build the shadow off of, if you know what I'm saying. But for me, I told you before, I'm kind of lazy with that, so it's not that big of a deal to me. So this is our general lighting layer, and this is not going to be what's actually going to look like. This is going to be a very low opacity, just the way we did the two shading layers. It's going to be the same thing, 2 lighting layers. So this is how I create the first lighting layer. Then I lower the opacity to about like something really low, and we're just going to clean up all of the edges and get it out of the areas where it shouldn't be. Hark ye beast, ye should not be here. Okay, and the lines in this layer should be clean. They don't have to be quite as clean as the shading layer, because actually I do tend to make this layer very transparent, so or just not very opaque. Okay, now that we've completed the basic lighting layer, as you can see, without the lighting layer, with the lighting layer, we've added a lot more dimension to the drawing, even though, in my personal opinion, I think things like this are just fine without the shading, without the lighting, sorry, but for a lot of people, this adds a great effect of realism. So what we can do from there is just duplicate the light layer, which simply reminds us of where it is and allows us to work from it, and just erase around it. And I've actually done that as well on the first layer, which maybe I shouldn't have, but I always tend to do it. It's just a habit of mine. And on the second layer, you want to create kind of narrow strings or streams of light with jagged edges. And especially for this kind of creature, which is obviously an aquatic creature, their skin type is quite slimy, and they are wet most of the time, because they are in the water, they live in the water. So it's important to create the appearance of wetness. Yeah, so Lower the opacity a little bit. Lower the opacity. And then keep erasing. I erased too much there. And then after this, we're going to do one more layer of lighting where we're going to add specks or flecks or speck flecks. Speck a fleckalika. Speck a fleck. I always end up playing with the lighting until I'm finished with the thing because it never is quite right to me. So let's add some specks. Very small pieces of 100% opaque light. And I'll put it here. Or actually, maybe not 100%, but you know what I mean. Just it's there, okay? And stupid computer again. I don't know if I should make that shiny or not. I don't know if it's less creepy when it's not shiny. Let's put some shine there. Since this is an aquatic creature, again, it's important to make sure that parts of its body do look shiny, even though it's part rock, because it's a fossil Pokemon. Maybe I won't make it part rock, but you know, that's kind of how it's supposed to be. And then we can change the opacity and play with it and see how it looks best. For some Pokemon, it's going to look best when it's 100% opaque, but for some Pokemon, it's going to look best when it's not so opaque. And some of the flecks you might want to delete or lower their individual opacity because of the effect that they have on the rest of the picture. So, we are pretty much done here. But what I'm going to do as a finishing touch that I pretty much always do is go onto the the line art layer and actually just select the outside of it, everything that's on the outside, which works pretty easily on this one, and then just go into every single layer except for the line art layer, and then just press delete, 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 delete. There you go. And now we have a clean drawing. And the edges are still not perfectly fine, and I'm not sure if I'm even going to publish this one yet because I don't know if I even like the color scheme. But the great thing, again, about having done the colors on a different layer is that I can now go to Layer, Layer Style, Color Overlay, and I can completely change the layer without compromising the shading or the value of the drawing at all. So I can change it to purple, which actually looks kind of cool. I can make it green. I can make it more of this turquoise color. I could make it red, which gives it kind of a cool like ground look. Could make it, you know, purple. I just said purple, but you know what I mean. I can do whatever I want, right? I can make it pink, which looks actually kind of interesting, but no. I mean, I can change it to all these different colors, and please let me know which one you like best if you have any opinion on it. So, thank you guys for watching, and I hope that this helped some of you learn how to do stuff how I do it. Thank you.